Let's quickly talk about how to remove a member from an LLC. I mean, basically, when you have an LLC, you can have a multi-member LLC, you can have a single-member LLC, and it's important to always find ways to resolve any conflict that you have in a very friendly way. So, in today's conversation, I want to talk about how to remove a member from an LLC. Now, the thing is that removing a member from an LLC can be very difficult, especially if the member doesn't want to go, right? So, you need to check your operating agreement and state laws to guide you through the process. But here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So many LLCs reach a point where the owners or members can or don't want to work together anymore. Usually, a member can leave an LLC voluntarily by following a few simple procedures, but involuntarily removing a member from an LLC can be complicated and contentious. So it's one of those things where sometimes you might have to actually involve the lawyers. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about removing a member from an LLC, everything has to start with your operating agreement. This is very important, okay? And I'll talk about the operating agreement later on, but I want to say that if you have a clear operating agreement, what will happen here is that the court, all kinds of state or federal laws will follow the operating agreement. This is why it's important. Even if you have a single member LLC, if you are listening to me right now, you have a single member LLC, it's always important to have an operating agreement, because later on this single member LLC can morph into, can be converted into a multi-member LLC. So you want to have a strong foundation for your LLC. So everything starts with the operating agreement. If you have an operating agreement, not a problem. If you do not have an operating agreement, what will happen here is that state laws will actually trump whatever clause or whatever provisions they should have been in an operating agreement in the first place. Okay, so this is really important. And so in today's conversation, I will just give you guidelines for removing an LLC member, and the exact procedures, however, you will follow depend on your LLC's operating agreement and your state's laws. So if your state LLC laws, every state has LLC laws, so be sure that you comply with your state laws. Very important. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. So let's first pay attention to your operating agreement. So your LLC has to have an operating agreement. So what is it? Basically, this is just a document, nothing complicated. It's just a blueprint for how your LLC will run. And it's usually created at the time an LLC is formed. See, the thing is that you want to really create an LLC, an operating agreement, when times are good. Okay, when everybody's friendly, when everybody's happy, no problem at all. You can't really start creating like an operating agreement when you have problems and a member doesn't want to leave. That's when you want to create an operating agreement to sort of kick out this member. First of all, you can't do it because for an operating agreement to have effect, you need to have the signature or the approval of all members. Okay. What you want to do is that right now, if you are listening to me and you have an operating agreement, you want to review your agreement to see whether it explains how to remove someone from your LLC. And it may cover voluntary resignation, involuntary removals, or both. And the agreement may explain the procedure for resigning, grounds for ousting a member, and the way removal must be voted on. You need to understand, when we talk about removal here, we need to have compromise. If you are in a multi-member LLC and you want to remove a member, you need to gather at least the majority approval to sort of have this to be into effect. And it's important to have a step by step. What I'm trying to say here is that you don't just have to write lines and about, no, you got to say step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. You got to be granular here. So granularity is key here. Granularity is your friend here, because when times are contentious, when folks are really getting to this sort of conflict laden sort of processes, only granularity, only details can really help out here. So this is important. You want to go back to your operating agreement right now. You can have a lawyer take a look, okay, and really sort of fine tune certain parts. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to remove a member from an LLC. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about removing a member from an LLC, there could be some financial implications here, depending upon the profile of the member, depending upon the investment the member has made into the LLC. There could be very important financial implications. You might need to buy out the departing member's interest in the company. The operating agreement may explain how to do so, and owner buyouts may also be addressed in a separate document, such as a buy-sell agreement. Now, when we talk about owner buyout, the thing is that this has several aspects. So you have a legal aspect, you have an accounting aspect, and you have a financial aspect. The legal aspects is exactly what I'm telling you. In other words, you need to clarify things in the operating agreement. When we talk about the financial aspects, basically an owner buyout has to deal with an accounting transaction that revolves around retained earnings. See, the thing is when a member invests in an LLC, you have to record that transaction in something called stockholders equity or LLC member equity. And now if you have to actually buy out the member, that means that there has to be an accounting entry to sort of close out that account. So I'm not going to go into the details here, but I just want to let you know that there are various types of transactions that have to happen. And also, we're talking here about the procedural part of like having an owner buyout, which means you have to think about the account you have to wire the funds to, and in some cases the owner might be paid not with cash but with property. So those are things you need to really pay attention to. Now, one thing I need to say here is that if your operating agreement and other internal agreements cover your situation, follow the procedures outlined. Be sure to document your actions with resolutions, letters of resignation, valuations, or other appropriate documents and retain them in your company records. You never know. Whenever you're ousting an LLC member, you can be sure there will be consequences. And unless everything is clear, everybody has agreed to everything, but you never know. So keep records. Another thing I want you to really pay attention to, maybe you want to try to negotiate a deal. See, the thing is, when you try to remove a member from an LLC, sometimes you can really follow an amicable way. Things don't have to be contentious. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to have lawyers. No. You can try to negotiate a deal to have a compromise. It is not unusual for operating agreements to be silent on the subject of involuntary member removals. And the thing is that most LLC owners do not envision having to remove a partner from an LLC against the person's will. And even with a process in place, there is no guarantee that the party member will cooperate. You never know. People change. Okay, you can't really you can't predict how an LLC member who is about to be kicked out of the LLC will actually react and also retaliate, which is even worse. Okay, since the next step likely involves going to court, it is worth trying to negotiate a deal to buy out the interest of the partner you want to remove, and this may save you time and money in the long run. I mean, this could be a little complicated in the short run. Don't get me wrong. It could be contentious. It can be very aggressive in the short run. But believe me, it's better in the long run. If you do reach a buyout agreement, be sure to put it in writing and follow your operating agreement's procedure for voluntary departures. Now, I want to say one thing here. Whenever you reach a deal with the departing member, make sure it is done in a friendly way and everybody signs. There has to be signatures because those signatures will hold legal value in court. So you don't ever do a quote unquote a gentleman's agreement, like a verbal one where everybody agrees. It's like the honor code. I believe you. No. You want to put everything in writing, and if needed, If there could be some lawyers in the room, not a problem. So you want to have as many witnesses as possible. Very important. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to remove a member from an LLC. An important element you want to really pay attention to as you're trying to, let's say you're trying to remove a member from an LLC, is to refer to state LLC law. The thing here is that sometimes, things can be a little complicated, and you can say, you know what, how do I actually disentangle this whole thing? And the state LLC law is there to sort of provide the foundation that you can actually go back to if things are a little murky on your company side. Okay, when the operating agreement does not include a procedure for involuntary removal of a member, and you can't reach an agreement, you will need to turn to state law. And although state LLC laws vary, many are based on the revised Uniform Limited Liability Company Act. Okay, and the cool thing is that everything is really specified there, like in granularity. So under this act, a court can involuntarily remove a member from an LLC for 3 reasons: misconduct that adversely and materially affects the company's business. So whenever you hear the term materially, it means significantly. And so that's number 1. Misconduct that adversely and materially affects a company's business. Number 2, willful and persistent breach of the operating agreement or the person's duty as an LLC member or manager. Number 3, that it's not reasonably practical to carry out the business with the person involved. So the first one, the first reason is that the person has actually done something that is so weird and so bad. Okay. The second reason means that the person is consistently the member that you're trying to really oust is doing something on a consistent basis that is against the company's interest. And the third thing is that basically, if the person were to stay in the business will suffer dramatically. So those are the 3 scenarios that actually have prompted courts throughout the nations to remove a member involuntarily. It's also important to remember that when we talk about the referring to state law, you might need to have an attorney who is well aware of the subtlety, like who understands the subtleties of that specific state law. What I'm trying to say is that when you are in New York versus California, the state laws might be different. It's really important to understand that going to court to remove an LLC member can be a long, expensive, and emotionally draining process. Okay. In some states, your only option is to dissolve the LLC and form a new one if you want to continue in business. So before you file any legal action, get advice from a business lawyer who is familiar with your state's LLC laws. I want to insist on that. Why? Because what will happen here is that, remember, you started this business with someone, right? It's like, think of it as a marriage, okay? And after a while, stuff happens and whatever. I mean, and bridges were burnt, okay? And the thing is that the question is, do we still have a marriage? Can you still have a marriage if one person is out of that union? Okay. And the thing is, not really, because you can't really kick out, even if you have multiple members who stay, maybe the morale of the team might be different. So it's why we actually advise a lot of our clients not to go to court. You never want to go to court. You want to really find a solution. As long as you focus on the LLC, as long as you focus on the business, you think about the business interest first, and you kind of forget about the ego, like the personal side of things, then you can find a solution. But if you want to go to court, because see, the thing is that the member you're trying to kick out, that member is also going to lawyer up. You're going to lawyer up. He or she's going to lawyer up. So everybody's going to be lawyered up, and the lawyers will be the one to make money in the whole process, because the longer the process, the better it is for them, right? Nothing against lawyers here, but I'm just being practical here. When we have a situation where you want to resolve the things amicably, then you need to really discuss. Okay, so it's either that or you just dissolve the LLC. And the Lord knows how complicated this can be in some cases, especially if you have an established, let's say, a clientele already with your existing LLC, or you have ongoing contracts that your LLC has signed. It's not really that easy to dissolve an LLC and form a new one, because the new one might have to restart a few things that are not really practical. So always better to compromise and negotiate. Now let's talk about after a member is removed, what happens here. So it really depends on the LLC, depends on the sector, it depends on the states. And if the removed member was an LLC officer or manager, you will need to appoint someone new to carry out the former member's duties. If the member had authority to sign documents or conduct business on the LLC's behalf, you need to notify financial institutions and others you do business with that the member is no longer affiliated with your company. And you want to do this as soon as possible, like on the same day, or after the hour where the member is ousted. And you need to check with your state to see whether you need to file any documents in light of the ownership change. And if your operating agreement does not adequately cover involuntary removal of a partner, you want to consult a business lawyer about preparing a new operating agreement. It's important to really do things as soon as possible, because the member is out there. But if the member has signing authority, has executive authority, you want to make sure that all sort of privileges or prerogatives are being suspended as soon as possible. And one thing you need to have a clear idea about, you need to have a backup plan. What if that member actually leaves the company and creates a competing company? In some cases, you might say, well, if you have an NDA clause, if you're trying to make sure that there's an NDA so that this member is not going to compete against you, that's fine. But in some cases, if there's no NDA, if there's no non-disclosure agreement, then what if that member went and created the same, a similar LLC to compete with you? What are you going to do? So those are things I want you to really think about. You can't just cut ties and say, kumbaya, everything is fine. No, because depending on how you actually parted ways, things could be a little complicated afterwards. Okay, so as they say, when you have action, expect to see reaction. Okay, it's just what it is, not just in business, but so bottom line here is you need to plan. You need to plan when you remove a member, an LLC member, you need to plan the after removal phase. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I explained to you how to remove a member from an LLC. So basically, you have several options here. You got to go back to your operating agreement. You got to really try to negotiate a deal if possible. Refer to state LLC law in all cases. And after a member is removed, see what you can do to sort of preserve the peace, so to speak. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.